I would say that chart patterns are one of the most important skill sets to really master if you want to profit in the stock market in the long run, right? And this video will be talking about chart patterns. And there are two types of chart patterns. Essentially, we have what we call a continuation pattern, whereby it's a continuation of the trend. It could be an uptrend continuing or a downtrend continuing, right? That is a continuation pattern. And there's another type of pattern, so it's what we call reversal patterns, that shows a reversal in the trend from like up to down, or maybe from down to up. But in today's video, I'll be talking about what we call the continuation pattern, and I'll just be focusing in terms of the upwards direction, whereby the uptrend can actually continue further. All right, so if you know exactly what is chart patterns, what are some of the most popular chart patterns that you can take note of to ride an uptrend or to profit when the stock is moving up and up, or maybe we're seeing some weakness and it could go up again more, then you want to watch this video all the way to the end, right? And make sure you give me a like and smash the subscribe button as well, because that will really help out the channel and you will not miss out on any videos like this. So let me go ahead right now to share with you the 4 top continuation patterns, right, that we can seek out in an uptrend. So we will look at some live case studies in a bit, but let me just go into my whiteboard to share with you what are some of the top continuation patterns. So this is the word continuation pattern right here, whereby we are looking at a continuation in a trend. So let's just focus on the uptrend right now. All right, that means the stock has been pushing up and we might see this pattern coming in, and it might continue the uptrend again if we do see such patterns. So the first one will be right over here, and this would be, I would say, one of the most common patterns that we see most of the time. So in an uptrend, what happens is that we can see stocks moving up like this, and we might see a little bit of consolidation, whereby we see sellers coming back. It hits what we call a resistance level right here. There's a red line, a price level, whereby sellers are just coming back to push prices down. So we are taking a little bit of a breather right here in terms of the uptrend, just turning to a bit of a sideways short-term trend. It means it moves a little bit sideways in the short term. It could be a couple of months, 1 month, 3 months, 5 months, and then it starts to continue its uptrend when we were to break this level right here and it starts moving higher. If you were to break this very key resistance level right here, that's where the uptrend can potentially continue even further, and that's where you could potentially time your entry to get in to ride the upside even more, right? Or the next thing you could do would be to time your entry to also get in maybe somewhere around here, whereby there's a potential for it to rebound from that same support that has rebounded many times as well, right? So this is what we call a consolidation in an uptrend, one of the most common patterns we do see in an uptrend, and it's quite healthy as well to see patterns like this, because when we see patterns like this, it just shows that prices are finding a higher support each time, and we are not just going up and up and up every single day or every single month. It can be quite dangerous if that happens, if there's no new support being found. But once we see a consolidation like that, it can mean that buyers are there to support prices as it consolidates a little bit, regain some strength, and for that next move up as well. All right, so that's the first pattern, all right, a consolidation in an uptrend. The next pattern would be what we call an ascending triangle. So there are many kinds of patterns, but essentially you can see that all these patterns, like the red line and even the green line, they are all made up of what we call horizontal lines, or an upward or a downward sloping lines, right? So in this case, there are 2 horizontal lines. One is a red line, which is the resistance. One would be the green line, which is a support. Both are horizontal lines. The other one would be what we call an ascending triangle pattern. So in that ascending triangle pattern would be made up of what we call a horizontal red resistance line, that's a red line that's horizontal, and an upward sloping green channel support line. It's kind of like upward sloping, so one horizontal and one that's upward sloping. So same thing, it could be what we call a bit of an uptrend essentially, and then we might hit to this resistance level. Sellers came back and pushed prices down, and each time it sells back down, all right, buyers are coming back again to defend and rebounds back up again, head back to the same resistance level, come back down, buyers came back up, push it back up again right over here, and that's what we call an ascending triangle pattern as well. So this is quite good, because you can see that now this is slightly different from this, whereby the support is the same, and each time it trades back down, it was pretty much to that same support level. Nothing wrong with it, right? But in the ascending triangle pattern, you can see that the support actually got higher each time. That means when we sold off, right, we did not go back down to the previous same support level. We actually just sold down a little bit, and buyers came back and pushed prices back up all the way again, well, to the same resistance level, but it shows that buyers are prepared to buy at higher prices. They're not letting prices like fall back down to the original same low that we have seen previously, but it just came down a little bit and buyers came back up and push it all the way back up to that same resistance. So that is slightly more bullish, I would say, the ascending triangle pattern. And if we do see same thing, a break above this resistance level, all right, that red horizontal line, well, that could be a sign whereby the uptrend can continue again to the next higher phase. Targets could be revised higher. This is what we call a continuation pattern, because these are essentially what we call a continuation of the trend. So we could see patterns like this, and then it might be an uptrend already, and then we see this pattern, and then the uptrend continues to a higher phase. Does it make sense? All right. Okay, so that is a pretty good pattern, ascending triangle pattern. I would say that this ascending triangle pattern number 2, let me just write number 2 here, will be slightly more bullish. In fact, I think more bullish than the number 1, which should just be a consolidation, a usual or normal consolidation in an uptrend. All right, so let's move on to the next one, and that would be number 3. So let me just write number 3 right over here. And there are many names, but you don't actually have to remember all the names of all these different patterns. But this is what we call a bullish flag, right? Bullish flag, whereby it has been pretty much in an uptrend, forming higher lows, right, and push up to a certain level, and somewhere around the high, all right, sellers came back and we start seeing some weakness, whereby it starts pushing lower and lower, forming what we call lower highs and lower lows. So that could be where we are seeing a bit of short-term weakness. But if the longer term trend is still intact, eventually we might actually regain back the direction in terms of the short-term trend, turning from like down to up again. And when does that actually happen? Well, that is when we were to break above, same thing, this little channel resistance level. So you can see that for this bullish flag, both of these lines, the red line and the green line, they are both sloping downwards. So this red line is what we call a channel resistance level. So when we were to break above this downward sloping channel resistance level, that is where potentially the uptrend can continue again, and we have got out of this bullish flag pattern. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Number 4 will be what we call a symmetrical triangle pattern, right? So I think this is what we call a continuation pattern, whereby we see patterns like this coming out, whereby a stock has already moved up, it is an uptrend, we see it, and it can continue to push even higher. So that's how it goes. It will be something like this in an uptrend. We'll move up, and somewhere along the line we might see kind of like prices moving up and down. We hit to what we call a resistance level, a downward sloping channel resistance level, the red line, and sellers came back and pushed prices down, right? And it hits down. You can see that we form higher lows as well. Same thing like this ascending triangle, whereby we can draw an upward sloping channel support line right here. All right, it's higher lows, but in this case for the ascending triangle, the red line is a horizontal line, whereas for the symmetrical triangle, this red line is a downward sloping line. So it just shows that prices are kind of like consolidating up and down, and it gets closer and closer because it moves up and down, and it becomes tighter and tighter until we hit what we call this very, very clear pivot point, and it either has to break up or break down. So if it does kind of like break up above this resistance right over here, the downward sloping channel resistance, well, that is a sign where the uptrend can continue again after looking at this symmetrical triangle pattern, right? Comparing the ascending triangle pattern number 2 and also the symmetrical triangle pattern, I would say that I would prefer the ascending triangle pattern a little bit more. Well, because you can see that right over here, in terms of the ascending triangle, we have a horizontal red resistance line, and I tend to give a little bit more weight to horizontal price level, whereas for the symmetrical triangle pattern, you can see that this is a downward sloping channel resistance line. So not as strong as a horizontal price level, whereby a lot of times it's touched and sellers just push prices down. All right, I think we want to give a bit more weight to a horizontal price level, whereby many times it touches, it comes back down, and finally it were to leave off. That would give it much more upside. So these are pretty much the 4 bullish continuation patterns, right? So the first one would be what we call an uptrend consolidation. It's healthy to see patterns like this in an uptrend, and it starts to push a little bit higher. And the second one would be an ascending triangle pattern. Very powerful, all right? We do see a consolidation below a resistance while forming higher lows. that is the good thing. When we break the resistance, it could be a very explosive move to the upside as well. All right. Number 3, a bullish flag, whereby we are seeing a bit of short-term weakness. However, the uptrend comes back, it starts to reverse back, and the longer-term trend remains intact as well. We could see more upside as we break this red line, this channel resistance level. And number 4 would be the symmetrical triangle pattern, whereby it was already in an uptrend. Prices moves up to a high and it starts to consolidate. Looking at this pattern right here, and it comes very close to one another until a specific point in time, whereby it comes really close. It either have to break up or break down, and if it does break up, that is where the uptrend can continue. So now that you know this 4 continuation bullish patterns, right, let's go ahead to look at some live case studies to see if you can spot any of these patterns, whether it's an ascending triangle or a symmetrical triangle or maybe some consolidation in uptrend. Let's see if you can spot these patterns, and most importantly, what happened after spotting these patterns. Did it go up higher? Did the uptrend actually continue? Let's take a look. So let's take a look at one of these stock called Eli Lilly and Company, one of those huge healthcare company in the US market that has been in an uptrend for quite a while, alright, over the past 2-3 years, and I've seen some of those chart patterns forming in this stock as well. So let's take a look at it right now. You can see that somewhere around like 20 to 21, alright, there is what we call an ascending triangle pattern. Remember right over here, the number two, right, the ascending triangle pattern, whereby we have what we call a horizontal resistance line and an upward sloping green line. That's what we call a channel support, whereby it forms higher lows, right? And when it broke the resistance, the red line can start to push even higher, or the uptrend can continue, right? So you can see that somewhere around 2021, we formed a little bit of a resistance here. We neared it a couple of times, and eventually, all right, we broke this resistance level at about 280, and then the uptrend actually continued, right? It starts pushing a little bit higher, retraced back down, retested the same resistance and support, and eventually start to push even higher. All right, so that is what we call an ascending triangle pattern. We have a horizontal resistance level at 280. That's a level whereby each time it nears it or it touches it, sellers comes back and push prices down, right? But the key here, remember, for the ascending triangle pattern is when prices were to head down, did it go back down to the same level or maybe just slightly lower, and then buyers comes back to kind of like push it all the way back up again? Well, you can see that for an ascending triangle pattern, it forms higher lows, right? So it's a bit of a higher lows, right? And we can draw this upward sloping channel support line right over here. So not a very, very nice, model theoretical pattern like we draw over here, but essentially we have been forming what we call higher lows with a very firm resistance, which we eventually gave way and we start to push even higher. So this is something like what we call an ascending triangle pattern, right? Next, we can also see that there is this pattern right over here. And what is this pattern? Well, this pattern would be what we call the number 3, the bullish flag. Remember, after pushing up and up and up, and then we might see a bit of short-term weakness. It formed lower highs and lower lows, but the longer-term uptrend was still pretty okay. And when it finally broke this red line, the downward sloping channel resistance line, well, that is where the uptrend can continue again. All right, so let's see if that happens. All right, so we saw it pushing all the way up to about 380, and then we formed what we call lower highs, lower lows, right? A couple of selling, it came lower and lower. You can see right here, the low became slightly lower, and eventually right over here, when we broke above this downward sloping red line, same thing like over here, right, the uptrend actually continue, and the longer term uptrend remains in play again. It has always been in play, but now the short term trend has started to turn up as well. We start to push all the way up. Does it make sense? All right, so that is what we call a bullish flag. All right, next would be over here, right? This is what we call an symmetrical triangle pattern, right? So it's not really formed yet. I mean, I'm just kind of like predicting it, but essentially a symmetrical triangle pattern would be something like this. Remember, we form what we call lower highs and higher lows, and eventually it comes to a point whereby it has to decide whether it move up or move down, all right? And if it breaks above that red line, the uptrend continues, right? So this is how I think it would potentially happen, right? For this company right here, you might move up and down, and consolidate up and down eventually a little bit, and pump. All right, we might break this resistance. It could be about 600 to 580, and that's where if it does happen, well, we could see the uptrend continue to a next higher phase. So this is how a symmetrical triangle pattern can form as well. All right, this is an example. It might form like this, it might not form like that, but this is an example to show you guys what you want to look out for as well. So we have covered what we call the ascending triangle pattern, the bullish flag, and even the symmetrical triangle pattern. So let's see if we can find another of this first pattern, the uptrend consolidation, which is quite often as well. Let's take a look at another stock. All right, and this will be what we call NVIDIA, stock code NVDA, one of those really popular tech stock as well. All right, and we have seen it turn to an uptrend since the beginning of 2023. All right, so as it moves up, as I mentioned, it is healthy to also see some sideways consolidation in the short term before actually breaking the resistance and pushing even higher. So let's see if this resistance or support actually came in, or this sideways consolidation. So I think we can draw what we call a line right here. You can see this a little bit of a resistance, a bit of a support. Let's put it in green in color. You can see, right? So it was pretty much an uptrend. All right, if we broke, okay, maybe we can draw another line right here. All right, so it's a bit of a resistance. You can see right over here, a bit of a resistance. So let me turn this to red in color. All right, and eventually we broke this resistance with the trend starting to turn up, and we started to push a little bit higher. And after pushing higher and higher for like about a month or 2 months, then we saw this sideways consolidation. Look at this right here, right? It was about 260 to 280 for a month or so, and eventually breaking that 280 pump, and that's where it started to push even higher. So there's something like what we call consolidation in an uptrend. So this consolidation could be like a month or 2 or 3 months, maybe up to 6 months or up to a year as well. So let's see if we can find another consolidation in an uptrend. So this is where we are right now. You can see that over the past 5 to 6 months, we have seen a little bit of a resistance somewhere around here. I think that would be the $500. You can see right over here, 1 time, 2 time, 3, 4 times it touched, and we kind of like sold off from that level. So that's what we call a horizontal resistance level. Something like this red line right over here, whereby it started to push up, it's an uptrend, and then we saw this obstacle, sellers came back and pushed prices down. So this is a horizontal price level. What about the horizontal support level, like this green line? Did it actually happen? Well, I think we have also found a support, right? Look at it, somewhere around here. Let me just put this in green in color. You can see right over here, that would be around that 400, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times you touch it, and we started to see it rebound. All right, so it's pretty much moving up and down like this, right? I mean, that is pretty much the range from what, $400 to $500 in an uptrend. So this is a sideways, I would say, a consolidation right now, which, as I say, is healthy as long as we stay above that 400 support level. This green line is still holding quite well. I would say the uptrend is still intact in the longer term, but in the short term, we might just be moving sideways, and that could be a good thing for you to get in as well near the support level. Or if we were to break, all right, if we were to eventually pump and break that 500 psychological resistance level, well, then that would be something like this thing right over here, whereby it breaks the resistance and the uptrend can continue. That's what we call a continuation pattern after that short-term sideways consolidation. All right, so this is pretty much the sideways consolidation in an uptrend, which we have spotted like 1, 2 times, a little bit longer. This was about 2 months. This one's about 5, 6 months. All right, so there we have it, guys. I pretty much look at some live case studies as well as to how we can find or spot some of those patterns, like the uptrend consolidation, the ascending triangle, the bullish flag, and even the symmetrical triangle pattern. So I hope you now know how to spot such patterns and what happens after these patterns. You can look out for that as well in terms of upside targets, right, and how the uptrend can actually continue even further. So I'll not go on too much or show too many case studies, because you'll just push this video to like more than 20-30 minutes, right? But essentially, I hope you get a good idea of what are some of those continuation bullish patterns. So if you like this video, guys, go ahead and give me a like and smash the subscribe button as well, so that you will not miss out on any new videos like this. And Joey here, thank you so much for doing this. It definitely help out the channel as well, right? And if you like some of those patterns that we talk about and how it actually fits in with my overall strategy, I have a strategy called One Good Trend. Well, what you can do is to attend one of those webinars that we have in the future. There's no webinars right now, but in the future, once it's ready, we'll let you know. So how to get on my email list or be in my private Telegram Telegram channel, well, you can click on the link below this video. I'll place the link right there whereby you can download my free trend trading report where I share with you this strategy that I have called One Good Trend, and you can be on my email list as well. And you can also join our private Telegram community whereby we do share some of those videos and ideas much faster as well. Alright, so Joey here. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to see you in one of those webinars in the near future. Take care.